What's really funny is it's literally just the Three Stooges in the car in unknown territory trying to navigate with a GPS while trying to come up with some topic for today's stand-up. What's up, boys? We got Matt Ramos, Mike Rispoli in the house today in the car. License plate is the CTO.
That's right.
It is right.
It is right. But the funny thing is, this is like that Jerry Seinfeld driving in cars with agency people.
Yeah.
We're driving to a customer to shake their hand.
You got to work on that title.
This is how it goes.
Driving in the car with agency owners.
So, we were just talking about a topic that I think is really appropriate for stand-up.
Yep.
You're really seething over it, so why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, I loved it. So I gave you guys a task last week. I said I wanted you to attempt, using a few tools that I gave you guys, to automate what I thought were processes in our agency that were automatable.
Yeah.
Right? And I came back, and we're on the train going to Omicron, and I said, how'd you guys do? Or I said, how'd you do, to Justin here? And he goes, not good.
Not good.
Not good. And what you guys came to the realization.
Not for a lack of effort.
Not for lack of effort. Well, not only did the automation, a few of them went poorly, a few of them were automatable, but then you came to this realization and you said all of the processes that were automatable and required no human in the loop, that were like, hey, we can just truly automate, probably didn't need to exist at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, the full-throated conversation of that is, if something is going to lose its soul and just be fully automated, and we already know that when it's driven by a human, it's not opened. I'm still getting customers that call me up and say, where am I in space? What's shipped this week? What's left to do? It's not for a lack of volume. Like, we have a human, his name is Matt, and he's like dedicated to delivering information to people. And it still just doesn't impact them. They don't open it. They don't read it. They forget that it's there. It went to spam, 1,000 ways to die. And then the real question is, well, they were surviving just fine without it. If I automate it and take away its soul and it's just on repeat, even if I wrinkle this email a little bit so it feels customizable and has a little bit of personality, the real question is, was it even valuable in the first place? And so my story with this is an entire career in customer success. There are some brilliant basics of customer success: a pre-call agenda, a post-call recap, memorializing what you've discussed on the conversation. And then all of that makes it into the project management motion. The question is, it's got to be maybe client specific, because I know the clients that we have, there's a zero open rate on most of this content anyway. It's not the quality of what lives in it. Is anybody even reading it?
It's been that way your whole career. You just didn't realize.
That's true.
It's customer
Absolutely
success
true.
Theater. It's customer
Absolutely
success
true.
theater.
You know, one of these days we're going to bring, maybe it'll be Christy Falteruso, my girl. We'll bring the queen of customer success onto the podcast, and we can ask all these questions. And from a leadership's perspective, maybe we'll get a real valid answer, and that'll change our mind. But in our experience, you've worked tangentially, forward deploy engineer, tangentially to customer success.
Pretty much my whole career.
Correct.
In forward deployed capacity.
And the irony is, we've watched all these things kind of not be super valuable, but they're just like the minimum thing that we can do. And you don't want to be caught not doing it when it was, perceived as valuable.
The best customers I ever had, what they like is, they don't want the regular email. They like that I'll write them an email right when something is good to go. But most of the time, the feature they were asking for being deployed is the artifact they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And they just need to know, you can go use this now. And when you go to use it, it's bug free. So that's another very big one that people miss. I think especially in AI, it's tempting to say, let Codex do it, throw it over the fence, say it's done. And then the customer goes to use it and they encounter some weird bug because you didn't go and use it, double check. And then customers use it in weird ways. So that's the first step.
So your first step, just for clarification, is ship constantly, ship quality.
Ship constantly, ship quality. Do not get caught not having used the thing. If you're typing, this should work, you're wrong.
You fucked up.
You fucked up. Right. You need to make sure that it worked ahead of time. Check it on your machine, deploy it to production, check it in production, then send the email. Customers love it when things just work. If I showed up to the car dealership and the dealer puts me in a car to test drive and the thing doesn't start, there is a 0% chance that I'm buying a car from that car dealership ever. So,
Don't sell me
right?
on
You expect certain things to work. You need to create that effect in your software. That's number one. Number two is if they call your phone, pick it up. Always be willing to hop on a call. I know people hate that. I've spent my whole career. I really don't know of a better way to create a relationship with another human such that I actually can mess up and get their grace other than to meet them face to face often and for them to know me and know my name and sort of like if you're just like a faceless avatar, they will have no problem throwing you under the bus if you mess up. And you will mess up. That's just a part of the game. So you have to create the relationship. You create the relationship by jumping on the call. I have customers all the time. They're all in on AI. They love that I'm using AI. They still want to have a call with me once a week. They still want to talk to me once a week. They want to see the whites of my eyes. They want to hear the thing. And
I see that it's even more now
it's more than
because it's so much volume that you're shipping and you're making such autonomous decisions at such a speed that people's heads are spinning, just like ours are trying to keep up with the work, that toxic productivity.
it's hard. Yeah.
It's hard. So like even more so now, like with great acceleration, even with great quality in that acceleration, there's still this craving of like, where am I in space? What can we reprioritize? What can we do faster? You know, Matt, you should sit in the middle because like I realize your handsomeness is stuck behind my seat. I don't want to risk your life. I don't want to risk your life by making you sit in the middle.
We'll move up.
But
There you
like
go.
now it's your turn, brother. You know, you've been in this position for a really long time with us already. You and I have kind of wrinkled the motion. I'm interested for somebody boots on the ground. This is your daily life. There's no wrong answer. What do you think is the best motion that brings customers value?
I think making sure that you're responding to them almost immediately. You know, if customer success is a button that once you hit, you want a response time. The more ping before you actually get a response, someone's worried on the other side. Someone is waiting for a response because something is not working. No one's going to reach out to you for something that is working. And if they reach out to you for something is working, they don't need a response on that.
So like is the real question the other thing that's toxic productivity, which is like constant communication via Slack or Teams or even text message. Like, is being constantly available actually the answer? You know, it's very defense. If you're constantly available, you're waiting for your open floodgate for a customer to come to you. It's not proactive. You're playing straight defense. I'll field their call inbound, but you're not going out of your way in Slack to do the same thing that you would have done in email, which is like, let me update you. So, okay, with that said, what do we think is like the next most valuable thing that we can do for customers?
Ship quality stuff. Because that's people are not calling you, like you said, when things are going well and all the things that when I'm like, hey, this works exactly to what you were expecting, they're not calling. They're like, thanks, this is amazing, I love it. And then they want to just have their weekly call to like sing your praises, basically. When things are not going well, that's when you start getting all those calls. So you'll get bogged down. And this is where tech debt actually becomes a problem, regardless of how you develop. If you start hitting a point where every time you ship something, something else breaks on the other end of the software, now you start getting that. And we've had that problem before AI, after AI. It is a classic sign. It's one of those things that starts to rear its head unfortunately, with certain engineers. I think they are prone to this. Not good test coverage, not really testing the things they do, not going back and refactoring things. There's a big move now. I don't want to call it a big move. I just heard it, where it's like refactoring doesn't matter. I go, yes, it does, because this starts to happen. It starts to affect the other areas of the business because you shipped a thing and a thing broke over here. That whack-a-mole symptom happens all the time, and it's the number one thing that kills your agency.
For anybody that doesn't know what the hell you're talking about, what is refactoring?
It's basically when you go, so when you learn something new, so let's say you're working with a customer, you build a feature based on the spec. Customer wants you to build another feature that gives you some new piece of information based on the users that are using that application. Sometimes that means that the original code you wrote has now become tech debt. So I don't want to use the term for tech debt as it's just sloppy code. No, your new information has changed what you previously knew. And you could go back and refactor and say, hey, I'm going to make this cleaner. It could also be the first version was kind of sloppy and I wanted to go back and clean it up. But the more common thing is I actually have to fix the previous thing. There's a better data model. There's a better way to write this code now that the customer and the users are using it. And you can punt that and say, I'm just going to monkey patch and I'm just going to add to the tech debt. I'm going to do it the sloppy way, but the faster way. Or I'm going to go backwards and refactor, rewrite that code to be the right way. But now there's users using it. So sometimes you have to account for the fact that there's data in flight. And so there's a delicate way to handle that. AI or no AI, you have to do that. You should go back and do that because you're going to start playing the whack-a-mole game. You can do that one time or two times, but it's just like a credit card. You know, you buy a new suit every week. Yeah, it's only $100, only a cup of coffee. It's only a lunch. I'm not paying it. And then before you know it, you max out the card. And now you're paying interest and you're not even making a dent on your credit card bill. This happens all the time in software. And if you're moving really fast, this is worse with AI. So this is one thing that AI has made worse, is when you're moving that fast, you accumulate debt fast. And so you need to be very, very careful that you go to the customer, you get that info back. If there are things to be refactored, you need to be doing that. And AI is not going to prompt you to do that either.
Matt, what were you going to say?
Regarding testing, when you QA something for somebody, it's okay to let them know it's broken, but you have to find out first. As long as they know that you're aware of it, if they catch you, then you have to regain their trust.
This is true.
It's way easier to lose trust than it is to gain it.
So like what's part of your so remember the episode is really about like what is the best thing that we can do to service our customers and meet their needs. And we're talking about shipping cleanly. So like what is a little bit of your process of inspection of QA? You're not a QA engineer.
No.
You're just the stakeholder of the relationship. So you're the last touch before it gets to the customer's perspective. Tell me a little bit about your process, about how you cover your back.
This took a while to get right because I kept shipping things that had issues with it. Now what I started doing is I test as if I'm giving a demo. Test as if I'm giving a demo end to end. You push every button. Everyone wants to see where everything goes. Expect everything. Even if it's a feature that isn't new, you look at that one because again, you're giving a demo. Someone's going to want to see what this old interaction is, not just a new one. And that's also what tends to break because of what Mike said.
Yeah, the demo shows the friction. I found that too, even as an integration engineer, a forward deployed engineer at a SaaS company, when I'm demoing a thing that I put together for someone, it can be heartbreaking when you hit a point where you were like, I have to redo the whole video because it either broke or it didn't break, but the demo exposed the friction in the UX. Even if you had perfect Figma, even if it was what the customer wanted, the minute you see the friction in the demo, you know the customer is going to ask for that thing to be changed. If you become reasonably good at this, you notice that. And the script, the ability to demo it will expose not just the bugs, but also the friction in the UX.
You know, I think both of those perspectives are really strong, but it brings us full circle with what you said. So you've inspected software. You're emulating the demo experience, which I think is really good. Put yourself in the end user's perspective. Put yourself in your customer's perspective. How are we effectively communicating those things to customers? So are you still going to give like the end of the week burn down? These are all the tickets that shipped and a hyperlink back into Fin so that they can look at the task. Like if they're not reading all of those things, we're still trying to crack the code on what is the best way of communicating progress to our customers, knowing that the volume of emails that we're sending are just not getting opened. You still have customers that are asking you on their weekly calls, what shipped? What are we working on? What's up next? And so while I love your process of like covering our bases, it still for me doesn't solve like what is the thing to do. This started with talking about automations that we looked at last week. And so first of all, how are you going to just automate? This is probably a software question. How are we going to automate the QA process to the notification process that something is done and bulletproof?
Solution might be say less.
Say less?
Say less.
But then they're coming to you asking for, you're playing defense. They're coming to you and asking you, what should you do?
if the problem is they're not reading it, the more you say is not going to make them read it anymore. The more dashboards you create, check on progress, the more different channels of communication you open. If your issue is the same, eventually they're going to come to you anyways.
And so couldn't a new issue arise at any time, right? Like you're shipping software constantly. Like there's going to, theoretically, you're not always going to ship perfectly. So if shipping all the time and shipping of high quality, eventually something passes through, again, you're still waiting for inbound. What happened here? What was worked on? Why did this happen? What are we doing to patch it? Et cetera, et cetera. You're still playing defense. You're sitting here smirking. So what are you ruminating about?
No, I,
Great Bambino.
No, it's funny. I just I forget that we're in the car, and I said this could be like a really New York episode because I was about to say like, look at this asshole over here.
Yeah, but bro, I've watched you. I've watched you talk with. You've been talking with both hands while driving. If you know what I'm talking about, Italian and from Long Island. Been talking with both hands while driving.
I'm like thinking the same thing. I was like, this guy's flying up on the left lane. I'm like, oh, you really not gonna let me in, Chuck? You know what I'm saying? So like,
Welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York, right?
Yeah.
So no, we're in a little block of traffic here, so we got some moments. The it's really interesting you bring this up because I don't know if there's really an answer to this. What you want is to have the perfect system. The problem is the customer is the imperfect piece of the system.
That's right.
A lot of people we all have friends like this. Some of them just like your cousin just calls you on the phone all the time. And I'm not a phone guy. So I'm like, but I got friends like that just like, they like to call.
Please text me.
The worst, FaceTime people.
Please
Are
text
they crazy? I don't want to be on FaceTime. Like, right, but there's people, this is all they do. They only FaceTime. You see them in public walking around all the time. Every customer has a way they prefer to be communicated with. And some of those customers are like, I'm going to email you right before this meeting I have with my boss. And that's why I'm doing it. And I don't care that you sent me rundowns every week. I need you to respond within an hour. And that sucks. It's not fair. But that's like the way that they like to run. It says it on our website. And we saw a talk by a guy. Forget his name. You'll remember his name. Not great with names. But he said, be ridiculously easy to do business with.
Yeah.
And we took that as a motto. And I said, that is kind of the thing. Now, am I so easy to do business with that if you call me at midnight, no, I'm not going to pick up at midnight. That's outrageous. But between the hours of 9 and 5,
I'll call bullshit. You fucking would.
I know, I do pick up.
And aside, dude, if one of my customers called at midnight, something is really wrong.
But I own the business.
But I know what you're saying.
I own the business. I don't expect my employees to do that. As the owner of the business, it's kind of like it's your livelihood.
I see this guy ripping freaking emails at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
I understand what you're saying 100%. I'm just saying as well, there is no stone unturned. Like I'm going above and beyond to provide the most custom, best experience possible. It's what we differentiate on. And we still trying to fucking make it better because there's still holes in it.
But if somebody calls at midnight, I know that there is something truly wrong, right? So you're right. I'm probably picking up that call. But the point is, there are people who are going, no matter how many of this process you try to automate, they have a way of working that may not be the most efficient thing in the world, and we can't account for that. But what I can account for is that this customer likes to call. This customer wants to have a 15, even if it's I have customers that want a 15-minute Google chat, just face to face. It truly is 15 minutes. You know, there are some people that we know that are super good at the 1 minute meeting, super quick question is something. I think the point of this is it'd be ridiculously easy to do business with. You're going to have to meet the customer where you're at. If you're in a service-based business, you're not going to be able to automate everything. And in fact, I think that if something is perfectly automatable, it's probably worthless. You know what the best job for AI or a human to do? The job you don't do at all. This is like the code you didn't write. You know what didn't break? The code you didn't write.
But dude, what you just said is actually kind of interesting and concerning at the same time, which is like, it probably is on a case-by-case basis, but if you're doing something, anything, whatever that action is, and it is not valuable to the receiving party, and I'm using vague terms because, like, if you're doing something with a coworker, if you're doing something with a spouse, if you're doing something with a customer, and it's not perceived as value, but now you want to try and automate that thing.
If you're trying to automate talking to your spouse, you might be headed for divorce.
Yo, but dude, let me just say, they're automating things with your spouse look like various applications that like pop an automated question at 9 a.m. for you guys to talk about. Have you seen these types of apps? There's different automations like send us
A prompt.
yeah or give me
What's wrong with the
that's
world,
real games. Am I wrong?
Don't tell me this. Don't tell me the world. You're getting. My God, I don't know what to talk to my wife about.
You're laughing, but these exist.
Stop.
Or like a daily automated Bible study.
Yes.
Okay, so like anything that you want to create that automation to, you're removing some of the soul. And if you created a daily automation for Bible study to your wife and she never opened it, never read it, if you were doing it manually, she
Well,
never did it.
right, the devotion. You know, it's
Right?
funny.
So this is just like the world that we live in is like, oh, I want to make a little life easier. I want to automate X, whatever that is. I want to automate a nightly story to my kids as I put them to bed. I want it automatically delivered to my inbox every night. Could do that easily.
You can do things like that.
But the question is the receiving party finding it valuable? If your kid didn't like stories before you automated the process, he probably isn't going to like it with automation. It's a simple, silly, just wrinkle on the equation. But the question really is for our customers, what is the thing that they're going to be looking forward to?
Well, the kid, let's go back to the story. The kid wants you to read them the story. If you just let the AI read the story, that might not be the thing.
Might not be the thing.
I don't think you're automating the story. I think you're automating the story that
The
gets picked.
delivery
The
to it.
point
Yeah.
of the story is to help build a relationship with your child, right? And the point of me and my customers to help me build a relationship.
That's right.
People do business with people they like.
Right. But if they're not opening your emails, then you're doing an action that is futile.
But
it's not adding value.
You
to
don't
the relationship.
create a relationship through an email chain.
No.
You got to create a relationship by just having a good time together. It's why we go to conferences. It's why we're going to visit the customer right now, just to sit in the office. You know why? Because I need to pin them down. I need to watch people use the software we just built. Like, this was a great example that they're trying to use it, and they're clearly doing certain things wrong based on assumptions that I made from our call. So I'm like, let's just get in a room and I'm going to watch. And then we'll fix it in real time. This is one of the cooler aspects of the AI-driven world. So back when I was a forward deployed engineer and we had to handwrite all the code, I would live code a lot in front of customers, but there were certain things that had to just go through a complete refactoring. I'd have to take it back to the office and sit down for a few hours, right? Or I'd have to go in a quiet place and figure it out. What's really cool about this new world is the service I can provide is going to be crazy because you're going to see it. We're going to make changes right then and there because I'm going to be able to prompt and keep working with them and keep massaging this thing into place in a way that I couldn't before. So the idea of forward deployed engineering and usability testing and all of that takes on a much better experience with in-person and AI. I'm building the relationship. We're shaking hands. We're telling jokes together. We're talking about that asshole in the left lane. And we're building great software at the same time.
I'm under no pressure to just keep a constant stream. I can edit all of this downtime out. But another gem is going to come within the next 8 minutes. So I'm just going to let this rip.
Let it rip. We keep,
I might even just keep this bullshit.
You might cut it into 2 episodes. Episode number 2. No, you might just keep it. No, because I may have more thoughts on this too, but I think that there is a... So let's go back to what we decided. Have we decided that the weekly recap is a waste of time and that we'd rather you spend time on something completely different?
Matt, you answer that first.
That's a great question. I think there are some clients that I've decided to not recap for. I realize it's just not necessary. And there are some clients that I still do it for. I still do it for a client because even if they come to us and say, we need this information, it covers our asses. Which is another reason why communication is good. Hopefully you'll never need this. You never want to have a client communication, a client relationship that relates to covering your ass. But it's so good to have it when you need it.
Yeah, that is another aspect of this. That's kind of like I've always had issue with the Fireflies recordings. I've always said this. We AI record all the call. Everybody's got their note takers now. Y'all know nobody's looking at those things again, right? Nobody really.
I look at them all the time, but I know that the customer is not. And I'm using them, did I say that? Did I recap that? Most of the time I'm black out, even on these conversations. I'm not going to remember the details of what we discussed here. So I use it all the time. I use it for transcription. I use it to distill my notes. I use it to make a piece of marketing material out of whatever I do. But I definitely agree that if I'm on a call and somebody else is recording, I'm never looking at that again.
Right. I personally feel no need for them at all. I still handwrite my notes.
And so do I.
Because the things I want to remember, I handwrite, and then I actually never even need to read those again. Once it's handwritten, it's committed to memory. So that's just a part of my process, like of just handwriting.
Well, here's a question, because Matt answered a piece of the question that you said. The part that I don't think that we're going to do is the automation.
Right.
I still think that there are going to be customers that like, here's our menu of things to help you through your moment. And one of those things may be, I would love a weekly recap.
Yes.
And so to me, this is more like, here are your options. We're also open to whatever other thing that you've experienced is valuable. But I think what it comes down to is, are you finding these valuable on, like, let's say a quarterly basis when we check in with customers? Are you finding these actions that we're taking to be valuable? You'll also know passively, defensively, if they're not finding them valuable, if they're emailing you off cadence and saying, where are we at? And you know, and the first thing comes to your brain is, well, you didn't read the email from last week. Then you know that they're not receiving that value.
But here's the other thing I get, because you talk about this covering your ass. I have a different theory on this. Now it's coming to me now. Is that it doesn't matter if you got to cover your ass. In a legal dispute, sure, but these things never go to legal dispute. The cost of lawyers is too much money. These things never happen. If a customer thinks that they're right, they're fucking right. End of story. I have never been in a situation where, let's take a feature thing where they're like convinced. They're saying, hey, this was definitely agreed to. You have the SOW, and there's a line item there that's in dispute, this feature. We developed our entire process around getting rid of this because of this theory that ultimately the customer is going to win because you want to continue getting paid by that customer. If this becomes a serious dispute point, they will go somewhere else. We're in a competitive space. They want to be part of being, the customer is always right. They may not be right, but they're right. Right? How many times is there a dispute over a feature and we're like, okay, yes, maybe we have to compromise, but the answer is never, we're not doing that, period. It never happens. It just doesn't happen. It's like freaking late fees on invoices too. It's the same thing, right? If somebody's late by a few days on it, when have we ever levied a late fee? You levy a late fee to not levy the late fee. You add the late fee to get their attention to not levy the late fee. I was like, it just doesn't happen. And I think that most people would agree that even in these disputes where they're like, I didn't know what was done, even if you're sending the email, your response to them can never be, look at these 20 emails I sent to you, asshole. You can't do that. That's I added the asshole, but that's kind of what you're saying. If you do that, you've pissed them off. You've escalated. You did not de-escalate the situation. Now, you may feel the need to throw that jab in there. Oh, you must have missed the weekly email. Just don't. Resend it. You have to be the point of de-escalation. And I think there's a great quote. Somebody talks about this. When somebody's irate or upset, you have a choice of like taking the chip, right? You can be more upset about it. The fact that it didn't happen. I can't believe that thing is broken. I can't believe that didn't get your attention. And then suddenly they're less upset because you've matched, right? You've sort of mirrored that. You've shown that you care about the thing that they care about. And that's really the answer. You know what? I've been sending these weekly recaps. Clearly, they're not effective. What would work for you?
Right.
Because throwing it back in their face, just doing this in preparation to be defense, no. If you're prepared to be in defense, you're prepared to lose a lot of arguments. Because that's what the business's job is. Other than extreme cases. Some of you are probably sitting here like, I got this customer dragging me through the mud. They're withholding payment. No, there are extreme cases. We could do a whole show on that, on firing a customer. I'm talking about a good customer where you have a moment where something went wrong. You are going to give it because they're a good customer. You stand to make more money keeping them long term. That's the whole agency business is on. I don't make money on the first payment. I make money on you staying here. So I need that to be the case. So you're always going to be in a state where you should be actively trying to improve the relationship. is what I'm saying. You got to actively try to improve the relationship rather than have these things that you plan to use as like evidence. You're not building a case against the customer. That's, you got to get away from that mode of thinking. But I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
Well, I would like Matt's reaction to that because, again, I think that there's a combination of art and science. And I think there's a hard and fast way, which is like we're going to automate everything. Everybody's going to get the same menu. This is just the way that we do it here. And then there's another way, which is to provide a premium white glove service, which is like what we aim to do, which is more of what you're saying. These are the things that we typically do. If we see that they're not adding value to you, I'm going to ask you, what does valuable look like? And so I'm interested, like, is that tenable? Is that a sustainable path? That has nothing to do with automations. If anything, it's hammer and chisel. It's like the other direction.
But tell me when building a case has ever worked for you. When have you ever won? You don't, right? No, it maybe says to Mike and Justin, like, hey, Mike and Justin, just so you know, I was doing the right thing. I wasn't just like out to lunch on the whole thing. Maybe shows to your boss that you were doing something, but it does show that whatever it was ineffective. The SOW was poorly crafted, right? Like if there's any ambiguity, the SOW was crafted wrong, and you have to make it right now. And the person who has, the customer, unfortunately, the customer is always right. I believe that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I know you believe that. As a professional in this category of customer relationship for my entire professional career, being right or wrong, contemplating that, you've already lost.
Right. Yeah.
It's no right or wrong. If this is a partnership, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We have shared goals. When you are entitled to build your case and be indifferent is in opposition of them going the other direction too. Remember, this is a partnership, so if they want to come to you and be irate about something, you're entitled to cover your bases, demonstrate how you've tried to present value, but also admit that maybe what you've been doing wasn't their formula. And so let's use this opportunity to get back on track. But this cannot be about right or wrong. This really isn't about that. I hate that saying the customer is always right, because if you believe that, you believe you're always wrong? And like, what kind of relationship is that?
Well, you know the full saying, don't you? The customer is always right in matters of taste.
In matters of taste.
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct.
You're correct. Taste.
So opinions are also people's perception. We talked about it before. Christy Falsaruso, I really hope we'll get you on the call one day. We'll have a full-throated conversation about this. But she was famous for saying perception is reality. So like anything, any topic, and any relationship, somebody's perception is their reality. Whether they're right or wrong, that's where you're going to have an argument. And so the goal is to make their perception based on a great reality. And so they'll perceive nothing but value comes from you. The question is, if you inject things that are not valuable originally, then we try to put automation and processes behind all of those, and now they're just soulless, that's where you're going to probably alter somebody's perceived reality and lose control over how that partnership is actually conducted.
Well, if anything, too, they don't realize it's an automation. That's the other thing you have to recognize, is that for a lot of people, if your automation says something that's perhaps perceived a bit impersonal or a bit combative, now you're in real trouble. And they're like, oh, you said that. And you're like, oh, I didn't. It was my AI. I'm so sorry.
This is right.
It's right.
How can you be accountable for somebody else's saying, for somebody else's words, for somebody else's comment? This is like, do you read everything that AI produces for you? I sure as shit cannot.
I'll give you guys a great story. From my time doing email recommendations, automated emails, right? I worked at this company and we did email. Basically, the way that it worked is people would browse products on an e-commerce site and they would receive email marketing based on the categories of things that they were browsing. Really simple. No machine learning, AI. It was really as simple as that. We knew the catalog. We knew how things were categorized. If you browse this thing, we might show you that item with a few other items that were in the same category, right? Very basic. Well, we worked for a brand and someone received maternity dresses in an email. And they were like, irate. This is pre-AI. Computers do not think at this point in history, right? They don't. And she's like, I have been working very hard to lose the weight. I swear to God.
Okay. I can understand why somebody would be upset about it.
And I do not need, and you recommend this when I did not look at this dress. I'm telling you now, someone who wrote the software, You looked at that dress.
That
It was not intelligent.
Let's look at your cookie.
I'm just saying that the way that it worked is, listen,
You had to have gone to that page
You
by
may have
accident.
mistakenly looked at the maternity catalog. I'll give you that. At the maternity category, maybe it was on the homepage and you clicked on it and went into it, but this was not. Again, but in their mind, there was somebody that handpicked this email just to fuck with her, just to mess with her weight loss goals. You know, there's no Manjaro at this point, no Ozempic, no, but now it's even worse, right? The average person, and you have to remember, we do work in a lot of ways with average people. They feel like this is an extension of you, right? So they will feel personally offended, especially now if they get some email that seems, there are certain words, and Chris Voss talks about these in Never Split the Difference, like saying why, like the word why is always accusatory. And when you think about it, if you ever say that, even like to your wife, like, oh, why would you do that? Don't fucking say it. Don't say that. It never comes, it's an insult to somebody's intelligence. But an AI may do that and not have, there's literally zero intent behind it. It can't have intent. It has no soul. It's just, that was the probability. That was the question, right? You now are the jerk that escalated the situation because your AI went off the rails. And I think back to this time where very clearly, in my mind, everybody knew that software worked on basic, like, tagging, like this was just a categorical standard. No, this person felt this email was so personalized, literally because it just, like, puts your name at the top and shows the things that you browse. This was so this was personal. Somebody picked this just to fuck with me. And, like, that, we're entering a world where if you work with non-technical folks, as engineers can forget this. This can feel like an affront and an offensive. It can feel like you're being combative if you let the AI do it. You, as a human, have a better understanding of your customers and a better understanding of how to, like, de-escalate something than an AI will, I think, because it's not going to understand. You have this relationship. We have this relationship with each other, and we've seen AI emails kind of go off the rails like this too, where you're like, this is
Totally. They reference something incorrectly, even just misspelling something. There's tons of telltale signs.
And then the other thing I've seen, though, is sometimes it's like it's too wordy.
Yeah, it's too verbose.
It's too verbose, and it can be helpful, though, if you're doing something like you feel the need to inject your little rightness. Or like, I'm going to write a really irate email and I want you to tone it down. Yeah. AI will help you do that type of stuff. If
That's
you
right.
really got to cathartically.
Well, this is what I was saying, right? Like, the topic at hand is really about, should you automate X? And Matt, you and I have been running a bunch of experiments trying to find are certain things automatable, and should they be? And the answer is yes, this is all automatable. But should they be? And so you're bringing up the perfect conversation, which is, I don't actually want any of this stuff to be automated. If I can't be in control of every word that leaves, every conversation, every whatever, how can I maintain accountability? I'm literally guilty from somebody else's crime.
You're in the relationship business. We sell relationship.
So, like, what am I trying to replace myself with? The automation just, like, completely lost the plot for me. It's not even doing anything valuable if it was doing it manually. So why are we even thinking about doing this? Now, here's the real question. Why did you want us to go last week and try all these automations? What are you looking for?
All right, so this is what I was really looking for. So I'll come back. There are businesses out there that are not in the relationship business that I think do have automatable processes internally that AI would be very helpful for. Businesses that are bigger, we're a boutique agency, but I think when you start to get businesses that have hundreds or even thousands of employees, there's lots of this shatter handoff stuff. Some of it's probably theater, and I think that a part of any good AI implementer is going to be able to separate the theater from the value and find a way to make those processes better. So the byproduct, the goal should not be, as an external business, just to implement AI. It should be to kind of use this as an opportunity to audit all these processes, as we did. But I think that these businesses don't necessarily have software engineers in-house. They know how to use things like ChatGPT, as they've probably been using, but they don't know how to connect the things under the hood together. And their existing software engineers maybe could be allocated to this, but they're probably also working on stuff. And AI freed up a bunch of their time? No, it didn't. You probably just gave them more work. And that's the reality that's happened for me anyway. I've just ended up with more work. It didn't free up any of my time, right? So, or I've been able to do other relationship building type things like what we're doing now. So I was looking at this as a service offering that we could bring to customers who are larger, which is implementing AI processes internally to the business. I think that this, for the small to mid-sized business who does not have the most technically adept people. For example, most businesses, if the email doesn't work, do you know what they do? You guys know?
They kill email.
They call help desk. They call some external IT provider because they don't know how to get the Gmail working again. That, or they use ChatGPT, who then tells them to call help desk. What I'm saying is most people, the computer is tangential to the whole business that they're running, which exists in the physical world. And the whole, we're in the process of working with companies that are looking to build software businesses, so they tend to be more technically adept. But I see all these businesses, we're driving past a ton of them right now, that do not have that savvy, but would greatly benefit from bespoke AI implementations that are more user-friendly, similar to a ChatGPT, but that were safely and securely integrated into their software. And I think being an integrator of those things is going to be big in the future. I think, for example, Zoe Computer, who was on the podcast, I think that getting a custom implementation of that with a bunch of tooling that plugs into your business and can be revoked when the people get fired or when there's a security breach and integrates with all of the IT that you have that may or may not be the world's most modern linear Vercel, right? Like all these things are integrated with these very hot new tools. But it's not so easy to get some customer that's been running some other thing. That's going to be very big business in the future. So that's really where I said if we could figure this out for ourselves, we could figure this out for other people. I think that figuring it out for other people, though, also involves saying, hey, there's like a big bunch of theater that's sucking up people's time. Maybe that doesn't need to be automated, but these things do. That was my thought process behind it.
And so I think based on that, so much of our process is automatable, like without a doubt. Without a doubt. The real question is taste. Should these things actually be automated? Someone's ripping a blunt.
Well, that's, yeah, we drove past.
Welcome to New York.
Skunk number one. Skunk number one.
Anywho, the real question comes down to taste. Like, should you actually automate these things? And really, that's the real thought experiment that I think businesses need to go through, regardless of your size, is A, was the thing valuable in the first place? B, if it was valuable, can it be automated? C, if it's able to be automated, should it be automated based on taste, based on perceived perception, based on a customer's expectation of value, based on your internal processes? You definitely, without a doubt, lose a piece of the soul. So if that thing that you're doing required a soul, required that human touch, I question whether an automation is actually the right thing to do, whether it's possible or not. It's possible, I'm telling you.
No, there's things that suck up people's time. Like my wife was an accountant, and I think a great example is like you're closing the books at the end of the month. There was a lot of very repetitive work, and then if something was missing, like one line in the ledger, it would like cause everything to be off. These are like great things where she'd have to go through now and spend hours and hours. These are things where you could build a small tool that could help find discrepancies. Do I think it can do an accountant's entire job? No, I know for a fact because we're building accounting software with AI. AI is an aid, but regular accountants that, this was, a not-for-profit, for instance, big budget, this would save hours of somebody's time. It would mean going home on time on that last Friday of the month. So I think about that a lot, that the building not just automations, but also tooling that can be used securely. That's another, something that people are very worried about is I can't really just copy and paste crap into ChatGPT because it's not the most secure thing that I can do. So we can help them navigate that space and build tools that help people do their job more efficiently, but definitely not in the people replacement space.